Come on.
Phuong Bree show. I'm Tyra Bankrupt. Have you ever been accused of being something you're not? And ladies, have you ever been taken advantage of and could do absolutely nothing about it? Well, today we have 4 lovely women here that are willing to share their knowledge of point of view, slavery, race, social construction, and gender roles.
Desiree's Baby, written by Kate Chapin. This novel shares true scenarios of a woman's life married to a slave owner. Desiree and Armand give birth to a baby boy, but they realize that the baby is brown-skinned. Because of Desiree's unknown roots, her husband Armand immediately assumes that she is part black. He insists on her leaving. Desiree then takes the child and was never seen again. Later, Armand finds a letter written from his mother to his father, revealing that Armand is in fact the one who is part black.
We have Jenny from the block to share with us the technique author Kate Chopin used to construct the point of view of the story. Give it up for Jenny from the block. Hi Jenny, how are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about you?
I'm doing great. So I hear you're going to share with us your knowledge. Please do so.
I'm gonna share to you guys about points of views that authors use. According to Siri, authors use point of view to describe the points of view of many characters and even the narrators. And according to Leader, the first point of view is often told from an I perspective. And the story by Kate Chapin, Desiree's Baby, is told from a third-person narrative, third-person point of view, because Kate Chapin, the author, was telling the story. But mostly it is told from Desiree's point of view, because if it's told from Armand's point of view, it'll be different. And that's all I have to say about that.
Thank you, Jenny. Today we have Shaniqua and Lakeisha here to give us a little insight of slavery and race. Come out and join me, ladies.
Hey. Hey.
Hi, you two.
Hi.
I hear you're willing to share.
Yes.
Please
I will
do
go
so.
first and talk about slavery. So Armand, Desiree's husband, owned the slaves. He took advantage of them, and he also treated them and punished them pretty harshly. He owned the slaves. Let's talk about that. White people during that time owned African Americans. They even sold African Americans to work for them in the fields and inside the houses. Secondly, Armand treated the slaves pretty harshly, according to paperstarter.com. Slaves during that time didn't have any rights. They lived in bad conditions, and they were treated pretty badly and beaten to death sometimes. And according to teeninc.com, Armand felt like he was a king when he owned the slaves. From Desiree's Brown Baby, we could see that slaves were taken advantage of, especially African American women. They were used for sexual satisfactions. And I'll leave it to Shaniqua for race.
Oh, thank you. And then I will talking about race. And then the first, I will talk about how race will relate to class. And according to the author of Douglas, the author of Making History, and then I found out it was hard to accept how Armand should kidnap his child and then his wife out of the house because they not because the child had different color skin than him. So we can see that race is huge problem at that time. But it's not only a way to distinguish people from different class, different place, but a way to discriminate who had a higher class. We can see at that time, people who have white skin, of course they're gonna automatically put into higher class than the people who have black skin. So it was unacceptable. That's what I think. So people would just because of their skin color, not their personality. And then the second idea was from the author Bakery, and then it's about fear and desire. And then you can see in the article this is a fear of the African American that people are gonna look down on them. This is a fear that their children had to go same path that they already went, and then it's a fear that they had no future. And then we can see from the reading, I could feel their desire for African American in there. they desire for a better future, and then for equality. And then it's why it's not hope and dream anymore, because desire was much stronger, because they need it to happen and they want it to happen. They want to change the people's points of view about their skin color. Yeah, that's
To follow up on slavery and race, in the story Desiree's Baby, social construction of gender manifests in how blame is conceptualized throughout the story. Social construction is an idea or concept that people have built and organized their actions and thoughts around. Social construction can apply in many different ways that categorize people such as gender, race, ethnicity, age, and many more. According to Ruth Frankenberg, the author of Race Matters, race shapes women's lives in the same way that both men's and women's are shaped by gender, and that both heterosexual and lesbian women's experiences in the world are bisexuality. White people and people of color live in racially structured lives. Social constructionism originated as an attempt to come to terms with the nature of reality. It is the idea about how observations are an accurate reflection of the world that is being observed. In 2012, author Tom Andrew writes on social construction as the grounded theory. One can believe that concepts are constructed rather than discovered, yet maintain that they can correspond to something real in the world.
After this commercial break.
Welcome back to the show. It is my pleasure to introduce the author of Desiree's Baby, Kate Chopin, back from the dead. So what are you here to talk about?
I'm going to talk about gender roles during the slave era. First off, I want to talk about black women and how they were really treated terribly. I mean, they were literally the low man on the totem pole. According to Jennifer Holm, the renowned writer for PBS, black women usually were used as sexual favors. They didn't have any standing, and they were cheaper, meaning there was more of them, meaning the white slave owners could do whatever they want with them, and if they died, it didn't matter. They were cheap. And so black women really had to create a close-knit community to survive on the plantations. Black men, on the other hand, were always treated worse in aspects of being beaten, and they couldn't marry their wives because they didn't own them technically. So they were beaten and forced to do hard labor on the plantations and just really did not have any standing on a plantation. Now, us white women, we were a little higher up on the totem pole, but we still did not have a lot of standing when it came to social structure and gender roles. According to a grad student, Erin Milligan from Ramapo College, white women held little power even in the home. We couldn't even raise our children because that was done by the slaves, and we couldn't have any influence. We used slaves for domestic duties to make sure that we just could sit around and do nothing, and owning slaves was the only way for us to actually hold some power, but even then we didn't have much power over the slaves because it all came down to what the white males said.
Well, thank you so much, Kate. It was great having you.
Thank
I
you.
hope you all enjoyed this episode. Stay tuned for next week's. Have a good day.